Hey there, Autism Fitness founder Eric Chessen, leading the movement for movement and bringing you another edition of Autism Fitness Tuesday training, where each Tuesday, even if you're watching this on another day of the week, but that's when it comes out, and the alliteration of Tuesday training. Anyway, where I take a concept, a strategy, something that we use to great success in autism fitness programming and bring it to you so that you can utilize it with your autism and neurodivergent life skill athletes within the confines of a fitness or adapted PE program and even beyond. Before I get started, please definitely subscribe so that you don't miss any premiere of these videos, and share, always sharing with other individuals for whom this might make a huge difference in their programs, whether they're just getting started or even just thinking about getting started, or whether they've been practicing for decades and decades and decades, because some of the gems in here could radically change and benefit the programs that you or they are already running. So in this Autism Fitness Tuesday training, we are going to be talking a little bit about assumptions that are made and how they block effective communication with our athletes. And this can happen whether it is the first or second or 700th session. There are some assumptions that we make sometimes about how our athletes are able to process information. Now, it's not only the processing of information, but it's how we are delivering those communications as well. It is the words that we use, the tone of voice when we are delivering our messaging or our coaching. And these can make a big difference. Whether you give an athlete a cue or whether you give them feedback before they start a squat or an overhead press or a push-up, or during or after, can make a significant difference in how well they are able to attain and perform that skill. So one of the big assumptions that's made is that if you are using a word, that the athlete is already familiar with the term, with the context, what it means, and what they are supposed to do with that term as far as performing the exercise. A couple of examples, and we get into this a lot in our coaching education, is using some type of preposition. So preposition in, on, under, next to. And one of the big mistakes that many coaches will make is that they will use far too vague and general terms. So if you're coaching an athlete and you want them to take 10.5 steps over to their right, and not even their direct right, but the adjacent right, like let's say 3 o'clock, but not quite, so a little before 3, right? Even here, I'm getting lengthy with my direction, so I might have lost you a little bit there. Let me reel it back in for you. Oh, I love that this is going to wind up being a YouTube reel also, because then, it gets all meta. Meta. That's the second awful pun that I have for you. So instead of saying to that athlete, go over there, or over there and pointing, go over there, because over there is everywhere. I'm not Dr. Seuss right now, but it does rhyme, so it's something to remember. Over there can mean anything and nothing at the same time. It's far too vague and general a term for that athlete to be able to use effectively, for anybody to be able to use effectively. So you say, go over there, and then what almost inevitably happens every time is then the coach has to correct, because the athlete winds up in the wrong spot, and the coach says, no, I meant over there. And this just persists and goes on and on and on. Specificity. I've done so many videos about behavior-specific praise and how important it is, but specificity generalizes to other directions, other coaching, other communications as well. It's not just about behavior-specific praise, although that is a big thing, and it would definitely not hurt to look into some of the videos that I've done on positive reinforcement, behavior-specific praise, because it's a great coaching technique. But being specific and having an exact plan of where we want that athlete to be. One of the most helpful tools that we can use is something that has a visual spatial connotation or use. A cone, a spot marker. I like using plastic rings that are different colors for a lot of my different athletes. And even though we want to keep the session as age appropriate as possible, even if it's a line on the floor, something or somewhere to which we can direct that particular athlete. Instead of saying stand there or go over here, we can say stand on the white line or stand in the red circle or right foot in the blue circle and left foot in the red circle. I'm thinking about that because I just did that with one of my athletes today. So when we get into prepositions, the assumption that the athlete, number one, has an idea of or has a frame of reference for what that term means, again, next to, back up, go forward, is a major assumption oftentimes, because even if that athlete understands that word, they may not be connecting it to what we want them to do right now. Again, this is a product of many autistic individuals not being able to generalize or connect the use of a term or a skill in one situation to another situation. Another one that I hear a lot with coaches is like back up or go forward. Again, backing up means that the athlete needs to have a working knowledge of the term and then is able to apply it to that situation. So something that may work better is saying take 5 steps or 6 steps backwards and then demonstrating it. Of course, we come back in autism fitness programming to our process of label, demonstrate, do, and cue. You get that as an Autism Fitness Certified Pro. It has remarkably changed people's coaching and thus the outcomes in their programs for their athletes. And I've done plenty of other videos on label, demonstrate, do, and cue, but we want to demonstrate what we mean for the athlete rather than, again, assuming that they understand or immediately know what we want them to do or where we want them to go or where they need to set up. Now, this is not undermining intelligence at all. Our athletes can be highly intelligent, but if you don't have the working knowledge of a term or what that term is related to, you're not going to be able to do it. So anybody who's learning a new exercise, if you've never done a squat before, if you've never done a variation of a squat, like a split squat, or a Bulgarian split squat. Ridiculous name. It's a rear foot elevated squat. But what does that even mean? So the specific terms that we are attempting to teach to our athletes or coach with our athletes, they need to be demonstrated so that the athlete understands what we are talking about so that they can then perform the exercise. Now, motivation being a thing, then we get into what does that athlete need structurally as far as motivation to perform that exercise. But all else being equal for now, we need to demonstrate what that term means. Even something that we may take for granted, like left and right, some of our athletes have a great deal of difficulty with that. So again, we want to demonstrate it. And if we need to point it out, if the athlete needs a little bit of guidance in order to discriminate between left and right sides, then great, we can use that. And a great way, again, is to use like rings that have different colors, so blue and green or blue and red. So right foot in the blue, left foot in the green. And it gives the athlete a visual and spatial awareness of where they need to set up in order to be successful to start the exercise. Now, the other thing that I'll talk about here is even more abstract, fast and slow. So in order to get a training effect, meaning the athlete is getting stronger, more stable, moving better, the exercise needs to be performed. Any exercise, whether it's power or strength, needs to be performed with a certain measure of control. Even a fast-paced movement like a medicine ball push throw or a sandbell slam. There needs to be control in order for the exercise to have the intended benefit for that athlete. But if the athlete does not have a frame of reference for fast versus slow, then saying to the athlete, oh, slow down, slow down, slow down, and you can repeat it all you want, it's not going to land, right? So if that athlete is having difficulty with that motor control, again, we go back to demonstration. There are a couple different strategies that we can use here. We can use what we call in autism fitness our counting versus not counting. So teaching the athlete to discriminate or be able to separate reps that are a little too quick versus reps that look really good. Now, of course, from a physical perspective, this is really important because in order to develop that strength, stability, and motor planning that we are after, the athlete does need to do the exercise with a certain level of motor control. If they don't have it yet, that's fine. That's where we're going to get. That's why we modify the exercises. But we also have to modify our coaching and the way that we use our voice and tone and words, because all of these things matter. And if we're just repeating something that is not landing or not effective for that athlete, then it's never going to convey, and it's not going to turn out in the favor of the athlete. And then everybody gets frustrated. The athlete gets frustrated, the coach gets frustrated, because we need more tools in our toolbox. And those tools are going to be understanding the communication strategy here, which is demonstrating and not necessarily assuming that the athlete doesn't understand the term. It may not be that, but they need that thing to click. They need the term to click with the action. And we, as coaches, are the bridge between the term, what we're saying, and the action, whether it's right, left, whether it's forward, backwards, whether it's slow, fast. All of these words mean something, but we have to build in that meaning for our athletes. So when you are coaching, be hyper aware and cognizant of the words that you are using, whether your athlete seems to be able to follow the instruction, and what you need to either modify or change or demonstrate, and be an actively involved coach so that the athlete has the smoothest ride between hearing or seeing the direction and performing the exercise and being set up for success. What we are doing as coaches is being guides for our athlete. And in order to be a great guide, you need to have a great map. And that map is composed of strategies that are going to elevate and connect your communication with what we want that outcome to be for that athlete, performing the exercise safely and effectively so that there is a training effect. And so that's those skills that they're developing in the gym, in the home, in the clinic, at school, generalize to activities of daily living, because that is what we are after for our autism and neurodivergent life skill athletes. So I've given you a lot to think about here. I'd love to know what you are processing here. I'd love to know what you think about this, how it might add to your programming. And of course, I'd love to answer your questions here. So put them below in the comment section. That even helps the algorithm so more people see this stuff. And if there's a topic you'd like me to cover in a future edition of Autism Fitness Tuesday training, leave that in the comments below. Also, I read every single one, I promise you, until we start getting thousands and thousands of comments. Then I may just, scroll through, but that's not happening yet. So keep those comments coming. And again, I'd love to know your questions. And of course, if you're ready to go pro and join the movement for movement, go to autismfitness.com. You can learn all about our Autism Fitness Certification and our site certification, which is for schools and organizations that want to absolutely and remarkably integrate or optimize their fitness and adapted PE programs. You can learn about all of this on autismfitness.com. I am Autism Fitness founder Eric Chessen, leading the movement for movement. Thank you for watching this edition of Autism Fitness Tuesday training, and I will be back with another video.